The year 2001 is a very polarizing year for many. While the tragedy of 9/11 would forever change the world, things would be much merrier in terms of pop culture. In the world of film, Shrek would hit theaters. In the world of professional wrestling, fans would witness the end of the Monday Night Wars when WCW aired the final episode of Monday Nitro before being bought out by Vince McMahon. While in the world of gaming, we'd witness Microsoft officially enter the fray, the fall of Sega, and the end of the console wars. Join us now as we look back at one of the most important years in gaming, 2001. This would be a huge year for video games, as we would see the release of the Nintendo GameCube, which launch titles would include Super Smash Bros. Melee, Luigi's Mansion, Pikmin, and Star Wars Rogue Leader. The Game Boy Advance that launched with games like Super Mario Advance, Advance Wars, and Iridian 3D. And finally, Microsoft's Xbox, launching with Dead or Alive 3, Project Gotham Racing, and Halo Combat Evolved. The latter of which would win Game of the Year at the DICE Awards, and along with Grand Theft Auto 3 would be the highest rated games by both Metacritic and Game Rankings. Both games would pioneer the concept of the focus of storytelling in games that made it a mainstream staple today. Meanwhile, the Gen 2 Pokemon titles would again continue to bring Nintendo the top-selling games, with 3.9 million more copies sold worldwide. Infogrames acquired Hasbro Interactive, including the Game.com division, the Microprose and Atari labels, and a right to publish and develop games based on Hasbro properties. Paradigm Entertainment was also acquired. They also announced to revive Atari as a sub-brand. Splashdown, MX Rider, and Transworld Surf were the first 3 games published under the new sub-brand. In other events, the Academy of Interactive Arts and Science hosts its 4th annual Interactive Achievement Awards and inducts John Carmack of ID Software into the AIAS Hall of Fame. Sonic the Hedgehog would celebrate its 10th anniversary. Reuters reports that the Dreamcast console had an estimated 800,000 online users playing its various online games. The 2nd annual Dreamcast Championships would take place, featuring Crazy Taxi 2. Other news reports would cite that Phantasy Star Online for the Dreamcast would have over 300,000 users worldwide. While on the business front of things, we would see the demise of SNK, as well as Sega announcing that it would no longer develop home consoles to focus on game development. The Dreamcast would be discontinued in May, but games including Sonic the Hedgehog would continue to be released. This would mark the end of an era as well as the end of the current console wars, with Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft being the big 3 first-party developers to this day, and for the most part coexisting peacefully. Activision would acquire Treyarch. Longtime arcade developer Midway Games announces that it would no longer manufacture arcade games, marking the end of yet another era and the death of the American arcade scene. On the legal front, Sega would sue Kmart over an unpaid debt of over $2 million, while Uri Geller sues Nintendo over his resemblance to a Pokemon character. The suit would be ultimately dismissed. Sadly, Isao Okawa, the chairman of Sega, would pass away at the age of 74. In terms of game releases, Capcom would release the original Devil May Cry, Onimusha Warlords, and Capcom vs. SNK 2. Square would release Final Fantasy X, Sony would release Gran Turismo 3, A-Spec, and Jak and Daxter, Konami would release Metal Gear Solid 2 and Pro Evolution Soccer, EA would release SSX Tricky, Burnout, and Black and White, Sega would release Sonic Adventure 2 and Virtua Fighter 4, Activision released Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3, THQ released Gothic and Red Faction, Konami, Tecmo, and Nintendo both collaborated to produce Fatal Frame, Ubisoft released Ghost Recon, and finally Rockstar released both Max Payne and Oni. Well guys, that's everything that happened in 2001. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time when we revisit 2002. Later.